Hello and welcome to the Canvas Chat. Here we celebrate the art of pro wrestling. It's painting brushstrokes with body slams and we absolutely love it. I am Martin. I'll be joined by my co-host Bobby in just a moment. But before we carry things on, make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. Now, as I record this, we are just a few days away from Wrestlemania 40. It's actually, as we record this weekend. So in the lead up to Wrestlemania, like every year, myself and Bobby have been watching a plethora of WrestleMania matches, and that gave us an idea for a theme. So let's head over to Bobby so we can get things started.
Thank you, Martin. Now, WrestleMania 40 is just days away. We're days away from probably the most anticipated WrestleMania of all time. Now, many would dream of main eventing a WrestleMania, and many look forward to the main event of WrestleMania. But what isn't discussed enough is the opening match of a WrestleMania. Not only does it set the tone, but also it's the match that everyone is waiting for, that anticipated waiting crowd. They're waiting to see who's going to come out first, who's going to open the show. As I said, who's going to set the tone. Now, out of 39 WrestleManias that there's not been some great opening matches. But there has been some crackers. What Martin and I have done, we've gone through the entirety of them, picked out our top 5, and we're going to share them with you now. Now, if you agree, let us know. If you don't, drop us a message. Who would you put in your top 5? Who's your number 1? At number 5, I've gone with WrestleMania 32, the ladder match. Intercontinental Championship, Zack Ryder wins the Intercontinental title. It's the underdog story. Nobody saw it coming. It's a fun match. Owens and Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, of course, going in as the champion. Him and Sami Zayn have some really fun moments in the match. This is quite early into their WWE career. WWE, that is. Of course, they were at NXT before. Going into it, Zack Ryder had the storyline that his, well, it's not the storyline, it's what happened. He'd never had his theme music played at a WrestleMania. So him coming out, him hearing his music for the first time, and he even give it, "It's playing my theme music." It was a great moment. He wins the match. Knocks off The Miz. Funnily enough, The Miz then beats him the next night on Raw for the title. Poor Zack. Now, it's not necessarily the greatest ladder match at WrestleMania. It's not even really the greatest ladder match that opens a WrestleMania. But why have I picked it? Because it's the one I remember. I remember Zack Ryder climbing to the top. I remember thinking someone's going to knock him off. But no, he retrieves the title. His dad comes into the ring, tries to put a cowboy hat on his head, and he throws it off in disgust. Watch it back, it's quite funny. But that's why I've picked it, because I remember it, and it meant something. And there was a huge pop from the crowd. And it was a great opener. So that's my number 5. WrestleMania 32, Zack Ryder wins the Intercontinental title.
My number 5 is Matt Hardy versus Rey Mysterio, WrestleMania 19. Now, nostalgia plays a huge part in this one. I was a massive Mattitude follower. That part of Matt Hardy's career I loved so much. I wore my V1 shirt with pride. And when they decided to go in that direction and give him that persona, it really felt like they were maybe going to push him to the next level. His entrance was fantastic, and I especially loved the Matt facts, and I found a website that actually noted down all of the Matt facts that were shown during the different shows. I'll share some. Mattitude is practiced in over 100 countries. Matt keeps the room temperature at a toasty 75 degrees. Matt has a heated toilet seat, and Matt likes English muffins, to name a few. Now, seeing Matt Hardy carry around the Cruiserweight title wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but I think he did a great job with it. In fact, following on from WrestleMania, he and Rey met again in the main event of SmackDown. It was June 5th, 2003, and it is the only time that the Cruiserweight title has been defended in the main event of a show. But back to March 30th and their match at WrestleMania. Rey comes out with, I loved this, when he used to jump up through the stage. He's dressed in his cosplay, and this time he's gone for Daredevil. Matt Hardy comes out, he's got his follower, he's got Shannon Moore, also known as an MFer. I mean, I was 13 at the time, and a lot of this definitely went over my head. So Matt Hardy's gone on record as saying in interviews that they lost a lot of time when it came to this particular match. They had to really speed through things when they got started. But I don't think that hinders the match. In fact, I think it adds to it. The pace is so quick and frenetic that I think the audience are like, whoa, they're a bit taken aback, but they think, this Mania is going to be absolutely fantastic. They really start the show off on a high. One of my favourite moves that happens in the match is Matt Hardy's on the bottom rope. He's holding Ray up for the Razor's Edge. He's going to perform it off the bottom rope, and then Ray turns it into a Hurricane Rana. The snap is just perfect. So the end of the match comes when Matt Hardy grabs the bottom rope and he leverages a pin against Rey Mysterio, which means he retains the Cruiserweight Championship. Now, like I said, they would go on and Rey would eventually capture the title when it came to SmackDown, but I don't know. There's something about WrestleMania and the fact that it lives forever. People still talk about it. I'm still talking about it. And I don't really remember that SmackDown match where Rey won. So part of me thinks, oh, hang on a second, maybe Rey should have won here so that we could have got that glorious moment sort of captured forever. But my brain then comes in and says, hang on, Martyn, you're a Mattitude follower. V1!
At number 4, I've gone with WrestleMania 21. Rey Mysterio defeats Eddie Guerrero. It's the tag team versus tag team, partner versus partner. And they went on to have a great rivalry that year of 2005. Of course, the ladder match that year for the custody of Dominic. What great stuff Dominic Mysterio is doing now, by the way, in WWE. And I thought what was nice with this match, it's not necessarily the greatest match these two have ever had. It's not Halloween Havoc from WCW. When you think back to WrestleMania 20, WrestleMania 20 is where Eddie wins the WWE title. These two then go against each other at WrestleMania 21 as tag champions. And then WrestleMania 22 is where Rey wins his world title. Also to mention, Eddie's last Mania, of course. Now after the match at Mania 21, they then go on to lose the tag titles to MNM. Do you remember them? Johnny Nitro, Joey Mercury, and Melina. And then they go on to have a no DQ match at Judgment Day. I was 10 years old when this was going on. This was 2005. And I remember enjoying it. I remember hating Eddie throughout it. I remember thinking, why are you going against your tag team partner? Eddie and Rey as tag team champions. Such a fun tag team. So that's my number 4.
My number 4? Money in the Bank ladder match from WrestleMania 25. Now, there are a few ladder matches that started WrestleMania, and I think Bobby's got another one in his list. But out of watching them all, which I did before choosing one, if there was one that I watched and I just thought, man, this is fun, I am with this, I am engaged, the one that really speaks out is WrestleMania 25. CM Punk is in this match. He won the Money in the Bank from the previous time. The thing that I like about this one is that there's a few heavyweights in there, so it sort of changes the dynamic of the match a bit. So we've got 8 superstars in this one. We've got CM Punk, Christian, Kane, Finlay, Mark Henry, MVP, Kofi Kingston, and Shelton Benjamin. I always loved Ain't No Stopping Me, No! I was watching an interview with Shelton Benjamin where he said that he lobbied to get that music back, but WWE said no, we're going with a different direction. But he was also asked about all these ladder matches and all the insane spots that he did, and he basically said he gave the credit to everybody else. He said the only reason I did them is because superstars would come up to me and say, can you do this? And he would go, yeah, I can do that. Tons of great spots in this one. There's a lovely build. One of my favourite spots that just had me smiling was there's this spot where like literally everybody decides to either dive through the ropes or jump over the ropes. So it's just like 3 minutes of people just going through or over, teasing that they're going to jump, and then they don't, and then somebody else jumps. Hornswoggle gets introduced into the match and he does a tadpole splash onto everyone. I just loved that bit of the match. You know, there are moments where things go wrong. For example, like MVP and Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin tries to do a powerbomb from the ladder, sunset flip powerbomb, but unfortunately it goes a little bit awry. I mean, in the moment, you're like, oh, I wish that had worked, and oh no, they messed it up. But like, in the overall enjoyment of the match, it didn't matter too much. Some other bits that I really loved in this match, there's a bit where Mark Henry is holding the ladder, and then Kofi Kingston, as he tends to do, sort of wowing everybody, is that he literally just runs up it vertically while Mark Henry's holding it. Christian does the unprettier to CM Punk, who's wearing his sort of Bret Hart attire. He's got the pink mixed in there with his gear. And then the end of the match is Christian pulls off this amazing moment where he is pushed to the side with the ladder, and as he gets to the ropes, he sticks his foot out and he manages to balance. So like the ladder's on an angle, and then he just springs back, and then he's in position to climb the ladder and grab the title. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. I was always rooting for Christian in every one of these Money in the Bank matches where he was a participant. What amazing work he's still doing in AEW. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. So it doesn't work out for Christian. Kane comes along, choke slams him off of the ladder, so Christian's down. Then it ends up with CM Punk and Kane. CM Punk uses his kicks and he knocks Kane off the ladder and he grabs the Money in the Bank briefcase, which was a total shocker because he'd won the Money in the Bank the year before. I mean, you don't necessarily think that somebody's going to do it 2 years on the trot, but they gave it to him, and I was so pleased that they did because they sort of bundled that first heavyweight title run. It was great to see how it all progressed afterwards and the heel run that he would go on. Very happy that CM Punk won that, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable match.
Number 3. Wasn't too long ago. WrestleMania 34. I'm sure some of you have agreed with me on this one. This was a great match. Triple threat match for the Intercontinental title. Seth Rollins defeats The Miz and Finn Balor.
My number 3 is Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor versus The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship, WrestleMania 34.
Such a fun match. I remember feeling pumped after watching it. It was, again, it set the tone.
It was 3 workers who we knew could pull off an amazing match, so there was a real buzz about this.
Funnily enough, so Seth wins, and they reference that Miz was only 24 days to matching Pedro Morales' record, which of course Gunther has broken since. And it's interesting that there wasn't a huge story going into this. Miz offered the challenge. Finn Balor and Seth, they both beat him separately, and the triple threat match was made.
What I love is that each of them has like a very specific entrance as they come into WrestleMania 34. So Seth Rollins comes out, he's channeling the Night King from Game of Thrones. He's got the contact lenses in, looking fantastic. A very different Seth Rollins to the Seth Rollins that we've got now. Which version of Seth Rollins is your favourite, back then or now? Got the Miz coming out, and he comes out with the Miz Taraj. So you've got Bo Dallas and you've got Curtis Axel, and then the Miz says no to the Miz Taraj. He says, I can handle this on my own, you can go back to the locker room and chill. He's mainly doing it for his newborn daughter. He's going to go in there, he's going to retain his Intercontinental Championship, and he's going to carry on the long run that he's had so far. Then you got Finn Balor, who comes out and he's got members of the LGBTQ community from New Orleans. You'd love to see that. That was fantastic.
There were some great moments in the match.
So the match starts off with roll-ups and arm drags. The match is starting off with such a pace, it reminds me of Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio versus Randy Orton, which was just like mad in terms of how quickly it was going.
Great match. It's a great opener. Crowd loved it. That's the main thing.
Something that threw me off as well was when they panned to Cena in the crowd, and I forgot this is the WrestleMania where Cena said if he didn't have a match, he was going to sit in the crowd and enjoy the show. Some of the highlights for me was when the Miz locked in Finn Balor in a figure 4, and then Seth Rollins just came flying into the picture with a frog splash. You really believed that any of these near falls could be the final fall, and that anybody could win it.
And while there wasn't necessarily a massive story, and there wasn't a massive story attached to it, what went on in the ring made up for it.
There's a kick out of the normal skull crushing finale, and then there's a skull crushing finale from the top rope from Miz to Seth Rollins, and then the end of the match is Finn Balor performs the coup de grace. He's going to go for the pin, and then as he does, he is stomped onto the Miz, and then Seth Rollins performs another stomp onto the Miz, gets the win, and walks away with the Intercontinental Championship. So it was a fantastic match. I loved it, and a fantastic way to start the show.
Number 2. This was nearly my number 1. Going back to WrestleMania 10. Now, if this isn't in your top 5 opening matches of WrestleMania, you need to go back and watch the matches again, at least this one again. This match could even be in some top 5 Mania matches of all time, let alone start, finish, middle, whatever. Owen Hart defeats Bret Hart. WrestleMania 10. As I say, so close to giving it number 1. I loved it. What a match. They barely left the ring. Watch the match. They barely left the ring. 95% of the time, they're in the ring. And nobody really knew who was going to win. We all thought that Bret, he was getting such a beat down to his leg. Bret's going to turn this round and beat his brother. Nobody saw it coming. Owen Hart does great work as a heel, mocking Bret's injury, does great work, and then ends up rolling up Bret for the win. This was such a huge night for Bret Hart. He had his WWF then title match later on against Yokozuna. And as I say, it's not only one of the greatest opening matches of any pay-per-view of all time, it's up there with one of the greatest Mania matches of all time. Tremendous storytelling and left you wanting more.
My number 2, Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, WrestleMania 30. Now the story to this one is a long one, and it starts all the way back at SummerSlam 2013. Daniel Bryan finally wins the WWE Championship, and everybody is just thrilled by this. And then Triple H, in his referee gear, performs a pedigree on Daniel Bryan, shocks everyone. Randy Orton comes out, wins the title, and we're like, what do we do now with Daniel Bryan? So it's been going from then all the way up to WrestleMania. Daniel Bryan has been screwed time after time by the Authority. Batista comes back and he wins the Royal Rumble. Everyone wants Daniel Bryan to win the Royal Rumble. And so the Yes Movement is born through crowd frustration. Triple H's entrance, his entrances for me at WrestleMania have always been hit or miss. Sometimes I think they're meant to look cool, but to me they sort of lack that cool factor. But I enjoyed this one, and especially because you realise who's there with him. You've got Charlotte Flair, you've got Sasha Banks, or Mercedes Moné, and you've got Alexa Bliss. His music, Time to Play the Game. I mean, there is an argument for that being the best theme music of all time. What's your favourite wrestler entrance tune? Daniel Bryan comes out and it is just a sea of arms as he comes down to the ring. It is really just breathtaking to see the entire audience fully behind Daniel Bryan. You've got This Is Awesome chants. There's the moment where Daniel Bryan's performing his drop kicks into the corner, and as he goes to do another one, Triple H comes out and hits him with a clothesline, just turns him inside out. One of my favourite things is you've got Stephanie on the outside, who is just sort of talking all the way through this match. She's shouting things at Daniel Bryan, sort of trying to crush his spirit, saying things like, "You can't beat him!" So at the end of the match, Triple H goes for the pedigree. Daniel Bryan reverses it into a pin as he flips him over. Triple H goes for a backdrop, but then Daniel Bryan lands on his feet. He goes into the corner, and then he just sets off and he hits the running knee on Triple H. He gets the 3 count, and he's going into the main event of WrestleMania. The audience is going absolutely crazy, and then you've got Triple H, the cerebral assassin. He's going to do some damage after the match. Stephanie gives a slap to Daniel Bryan, or quite a few slaps. Then Triple H gets involved. He wraps his arm around the ring post. He gets a chair and he smashes his arm with the chair. So they leave. The audience is booing like crazy. There really is no hope for Daniel Bryan in the main event. He's not walking away with the title. Just pure drama.
My number one pick. My number one opening match at WrestleMania. Well, if you needed a comparison to Cody versus the Bloodline, the underdog story, all odds against Daniel Bryan. WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. What a match. It's a main event worthy opening of WrestleMania 30, which actually is a great WrestleMania. Had some real shock moments, of course. Brock breaking Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. Now, the crowd loved this match. They believed Daniel Bryan would win. They really did. But they did always have that doubt that what Triple H would believe would be best for business would be Triple H picking up the win and going into that triple threat match with Batista and Randy Orton later on in the night. But no, Daniel Bryan would win and eventually finish his story. And the Yes Movement will be remembered forever.
And my number one opening match at WrestleMania is Bret Hart versus Owen Hart, WrestleMania 10. So what can I say about this match? I get giddy just thinking about it, and I could watch it over and over again. In terms of the actual match, you've got brother versus brother. The storyline behind it is brilliant. So you don't have the brother versus brother being about like, oh, we just want to know who's the best. It comes out of Owen's utter hatred of his older brother. The build up to the match, you've got Owen Hart is the only one that is eliminated at the Survivor Series when they have a Survivor Series elimination tag team match. You've got like most of the Hart brothers, and then he's the only one that's eliminated, so he gets really annoyed at that, and then he tries to get Bret to give him a match, and Bret's like, no, I'm not gonna wrestle you. I'm not gonna fight you. That's something I'll never do. And then it leads to, they've reconciled over the holidays. It comes to the Royal Rumble. They're going against the Quebecers for the tag team championships. They lose because Bret has like hurt his leg, but he doesn't tag out. Watching it back, I was a bit like, yeah, I would be a bit miffed if I was Owen. So they lose, and then Owen's just miffed. He really wanted to win those tag titles. Bret, why wouldn't you tag me, Bret? You just had to tag me. And he kicks his leg out of his leg. And that's Owen's phrase. And then that all leads to WrestleMania 10. It's really funny to see an interview before the match. Owen's being interviewed by Johnny Polo, who of course would later be known as Raven, a very different character. Owen comes out, he's wearing the Bret Hart shades, but instead of giving them out to a child, he decides to just rip them up. Owen is just fabulous at being this obnoxious younger brother. As the match starts, they do a lockup, and then the lockup like just finishes, and he just goes, "Yeah!" Like it was the best thing he'd ever done, and that he was the greatest. There's these lovely like flurries of action, and then it brings you back down, so brings the pace back down. Then it speeds up again, then it brings it back down. And it really just gets the audience engaged, and you can feel the match building up. It's got an amazing pace to it. Is there anybody who runs into the turnbuckle better than Bret Hart? You know, you watch wrestling every week and you see people being thrown into the corner turnbuckle and you just think, oh, it's quite a natural thing and it's quite a safe space for them to be. But you watch Bret Hart and you think every time he's whipped off into that into that turnbuckle, you think, oh no, what damage is going to happen here? The move set, the move variety in this match, there's not much that is repeated in the match. You've got Vlad the Superfan in the audience. I spotted him there. He's the superfan that appears in most of the WWE crowds at that time. And there's a documentary about him on the WWE Network, which I watched the other day. Owen hits a low blow on his brother, and then he locks in the sharpshooter. This is where you get quite an infamous photograph. And then the ending of the match, it's still a shocker. So Bret is thrown into the corner. Owen runs at him. Bret puts his foot up to the face of Owen. Owen's turned the other way. Bret cradles his legs over the top of Owen's shoulders, and then he goes to perform a roll-up, and they get halfway, and then Owen sits down, and he covers him, and he gets the 3 count. I just think the ending is fantastic. It really skyrockets Owen. And there's a lovely moment, it's not in this match, but at the end of the show when Bret's won the title and he's on the shoulders of all the superstars, and then Owen just comes out and he's just looking at him with disgust. I beat you, so that means I'm better than you. They were kings of their craft, and that's pun intended because they both won King of the Ring. To have a match back then and for it to still get a reaction as if I'm watching the product today with all that has changed, for it to really make me think, oh, I've seen it so many times, but for me to be like, whoa, when there's a kick out or, you know, that ending, for me to still be a bit like shocked, it's just a testament to them both. They were fantastic.
So there we have it. Top 5 opening matches of WrestleMania. 5 that I believe really not only opened the show, but stole it as well.
This isn't a definitive list. We're by no means experts. It's about like how we feel on the day and how we feel when we watch these matches. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. That'll do for this video. We'll be seeing you in another one very soon, I'm sure. If you've got any ideas for videos that you'd like to see on the channel, then pop them in the comments. We will see you next time. We are the Canvas Chat, celebrating the art of pro wrestling, painting brushstrokes with body slams, and we absolutely love it. Bye-bye.